Okay, so today we're taking on Scent of a Woman.
Really diving in.
Yeah, using what we have here from IMDb.
Right.
Both the page itself
Right.
and a whole bunch of user reviews. I mean, really a ton.
Yeah.
And as always, we're looking to see, what's it about this film that grabs people.
Why does it stick with people?
Yeah, even when there are, pretty strong disagreements about it.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of set this up, we're talking about a 1992 film.
Yeah.
And at its core, it's this story of Charlie Sims.
Right.
He's a scholarship student at a prestigious prep school.
Fancy school.
Yeah, and takes on this job looking after Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade.
And boy, the reviews paint quite a picture of this guy.
Yeah.
Everything from cantankerous to angry, foul-mouthed, blind ex-military veteran.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just the start.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
So really what we're going to be looking at today is this push and pull, this evolving connection between these two incredibly different guys.
Right.
But okay, so I guess one thing that is really clear from just glancing at these reviews is that we have to talk about Al Pacino.
It's unavoidable.
Right.
I mean, the sheer volume of people talking about his performance as Frank Slade is just remarkable.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and a lot of them are seeing this as not just a good performance, but like the thing that makes the movie.
The driving force of its impact.
And it's worth noting, right? I mean, this is the role that got him his Oscar.
This is the one.
His only Academy Award.
Yeah.
Which is, fascinating.
It is.
And it's not just, good job.
Yeah.
People are getting really specific about what they loved.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about how he captured this complex character, someone who is bitter and blind, but also so charismatic.
It's quite the combination.
It is.
Yeah.
One person even called his performance legendary.
I mean, that is high praise.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is how many people picked up on the physicality of the performance.
Yeah.
The way he moves and acts as a blind man.
Right.
That really seems to have impressed people.
Mm-hmm.
One person said they were glued to his eyes.
Oh, wow.
Trying to find a crack in the illusion and couldn't.
That's commitment from the viewer right there.
Yeah, really. And then, of course, you have those specific scenes that everybody remembers.
Right.
The tango is huge.
Oh, yeah.
People are calling it a moment of pure elegance.
It's a visual feast for sure.
Yeah. But it also seems like it's so much more than just a dance.
Oh, absolutely.
This seemingly helpless blind man leading this confident young woman in this super intricate dance.
Yeah. Huh.
It's like it reveals something about him.
Layers.
Yeah.
There's something more there.
And then also his words, right? I mean, people are constantly talking about his speech at Charlie's disciplinary hearing.
Right.
Calling it, stirring and evocative and really hitting on these ideas of integrity and honor.
Really powerful stuff.
Yeah. And of course, who can forget the hoo-ah?
Yeah, right?
I mean, it's like it's become his signature.
It's almost taken on a life of its own at this point, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because even with all of this, praise, there are some people who really didn't like it.
They weren't buying.
Yeah, they felt like he was over the top.
Too much.
A caricature.
Right.
One person even called it a masterclass in overacting.
Wow.
And said they never believed he was blind for a second.
So for them, the illusion was completely shattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting because it shows how subjective these things are.
It's so personal, isn't it?
Yeah, what one person sees as powerful,
right.
Another person sees as fake or exaggerated.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we have to talk a little bit more about Frank Slade.
Dig into the character a bit.
Yeah, because he's a pretty complicated guy.
He is.
Contradictory
even.
Yeah. I mean, we have reviews that call him a tough elderly veteran.
Okay.
An angry, foul-mouthed, blind, ex-military veteran.
A bit more specific.
Yeah, and even a disgruntled, life-skill deficient alcoholic.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's quite a range.
That's spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think his weekend in New York really highlights, the darkness that he's carrying with him.
Right.
This smorgasbord of pleasures that he plans out.
Mm-hmm.
The fancy hotel, the expensive drinks,
right.
The thrill of driving a Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's all leading up to him ending his life.
So it's like he's trying to cram a lifetime into a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how many people picked up on the contradictions within him.
Right.
Some people call him an asshole.
Sure.
But others talk about his capacity for love
Mm.
and see this tough exterior
Yeah.
as a mask for pain.
A front for all the hurt underneath.
And then also how his blindness is portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people thought his heightened senses were a little far-fetched.
Like too much.
Bordering on psychic.
Unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One person even joked about him knowing Charlie had pimples.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But then a lot of people also loved his sharp wit.
Sure.
And dry humor.
Right.
And that is important because it kind of prevents the movie from being too bleak.
Keeps it balanced.
Yeah. And, of course, his military background is so essential to who he is.
Oh, it permeates everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His direct way of speaking,
Mm-hmm.
his expectation of order.
Right.
It's like he's never really left the military mindset.
No.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Charlie Sims,
Okay.
who's played by Chris O'Donnell.
Mm-hmm.
And he's this scholarship student who's just trying to earn some money.
Make a little cash.
Yeah, over the holiday.
Right.
And he's really a contrast to Colonel Slade.
A foil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With his youth
Mm-hmm.
and his kind of innocence.
And an experience.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how his perspective really highlights Slade's, bitterness.
The contrast is really stark.
It is.
Yeah.
And a key part of Charlie's story is this moral dilemma that he's dealing with at school,
Oh, right.
where he witnesses a prank
Mm-hmm.
and is facing expulsion if he doesn't tell who did it.
Tough spot.
Yeah. And there's some pretty varied reactions to Chris O'Donnell's performance.
Really?
Yeah, some people found him average, weak, even bland.
Not exactly glowing.
No,
Yeah.
and felt like his character was naive.
Okay.
One person even suggested that they should have cast someone else.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are also plenty of people who thought he was utterly convincing
Right.
and the perfect foil to Pacino's intensity.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and he does play this pivotal role in the film.
Mm-hmm.
He talks Frank out of suicide,
Right.
which is this huge turning point.
A big moment for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should also talk about some of the key themes of the film.
And the memorable scenes.
Yeah, I mean, the reviews point to things like humanity and connection,
Okay.
life and adventure.
Big ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also honor, integrity, and redemption.
Right.
And it's interesting to see how these big ideas play out.
On a smaller scale.
Yeah, and the interactions between Frank and Charlie.
Day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that unlikely friendship
Mm-hmm.
and the revolving relationship
Right.
is really what drives the film for a lot of people.
That's the core. Mm.
Yeah, we talk about the tango and the courtroom speech, but their trip to New York,
Right.
that whole journey.
It's packed with moments.
Yeah, that seems to be full of memorable scenes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so stepping back a little bit, while it's clear that this film is a favorite for a lot of people,
For many, it's a classic.
yeah,
A masterpiece, even.
it does have its detractors.
Not everyone's on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people found the plot a little undynamic,
Okay.
and one person even thought the title was totally irrelevant,
What?
pointing out that women don't actually play that big of a role in the story.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some people also felt like the ending was rushed
Okay.
or tacky
Right.
or even melodramatic.
It's not subtle enough?
No.
Yeah.
And some of the criticisms were pretty harsh.
Yeah.
People calling the film overlong and tedious.
Right.
And as we said, overacting or hammy
Oh, yeah.
to describe Pacino's performance.
Yeah.
So it really makes you wonder,
Mm-hmm.
is the film good on its own,
Right.
or is it all about Pacino?
Is he carrying the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to note that Scent of a Woman is actually a remake.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of a 1974 Italian film called Profumo di Donna.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Okay, so last thing to think about is why this film sticks with people.
What makes it so memorable?
Yeah, why certain lines
Right.
and moments have become so iconic. I mean, people quote this movie all the time.
Yeah, they do.
And it's clear from the reviews that it leaves a lasting impression.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people are talking about memorable quotes
Right.
and the huzzah,
Of course.
of course.
Yeah.
But they're also talking about these bigger ideas,
Mm-hmm.
about life's worth and perspective.
Right.
One person said that you become the side of your soul that you nurture.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And for some people, the film is like a lesson
Okay.
about appreciating what you have
Mm-hmm.
and finding strength
Right.
and never giving up.
Really inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we've really unpacked Scent of a Woman,
Yeah.
looking at everything from Al Pacino's performance and the different opinions about it
Right.
to Frank and Charlie's relationship
Right.
and the themes that still resonate with audiences today.
So as you go forth
Hmm.
and reflect on this film,
Yeah.
think about what makes a movie truly impactful for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a central performance that just carries you through the whole thing?
Yeah.
Or is it the way the story unfolds,
Mm-hmm.
the plot that keeps you on the edge of your seat?
Right.
Or is it that emotional connection,
Mm-hmm.
those themes that linger long after the credits roll?
Yeah.
And maybe most interestingly, how do your own unique experiences shape the way you connect with a story about two people who seem so different, finding common ground and ultimately a shared humanity?
Something to think about.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
absolutely.
See you next time.